Well, moving there as a young child, you don't understand so much what the cultural implications are of different structures that you're a part of. You just sort of think, oh, I'm playing here one day, I'm playing here the next day. It's not, you're not aware of the larger pieces that go together to form this picture. And then as you grow up, you realize that these things have been building into your life, and they're actually very complicated and very confused due to the changes that happen. It was very, I'll say, antiquated, like genuinely almost you would think an antique perspective of femininity and womanhood. To put it simply, in their marriage ceremony, traditionally, there is a part where the young man says to the girl's father, he says, "Give me my donkey." And that symbolizes the woman's role as a worker, as an animal, as someone who, or something to be used and benefited from. And women have almost a return policy. After marriage, if the woman does not get pregnant for the first few years, the husband can return her to her family and say he doesn't want her anymore because she's not like fulfilling her duties. It's a very degrading view of women. It's very simplistic and hierarchical. And unfortunately, in my time there, I saw that many women genuinely believed that they were not intelligent, that they could not learn how to read. They were like, we can't do that, we're not men. They believed that that was their role, was to serve and to be totally subjugated. Now, this doesn't stop people from being strong. This doesn't stop people from taking care of their kids and, you know, just living a full life. But it was definitely difficult to live around that. And obviously that was an area of major conflict because my parents were conservative and more traditional Christian, and so they had some, let's say, religious traditional views of women being meant to be servants and like sort of secondary, but it was not so strong as having almost like an paying for your wife, paying like an exchange such as that. It was, yeah, so that was an area of a lot of conflict personally because as I was growing up, I reached a certain age and my friends were being kind of like sold and kind of bartered off in marriage. And my father received a couple offers for me. And, you know, people say there were jokes. Some of them were, some of them weren't. But that was very difficult. Like, that was that's a bridge you can't cross as a 13-year-old or younger when your friends are getting pregnant and having kids and they have a family and you aren't even in high school yet and you can't fathom the weight of that at such a young age. And then of course safety did become a bit more of an issue, just because, you know, bad people are out there, and that really drew a divide between me and the friends I made as a younger kid. This was the first thing that anybody ever said. Like, that was always the first thing that got brought up. It's very common. Just anywhere you went, people referred to you, but there was a word, mzungu. It just means like white person, foreigner. It was just, that was what people called you. It wasn't like it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't offensive or anything, but it was the first thing that someone would mention about you. They'd say, like, "Ah, you are white," or they would make a joke about it or something. It was just like that was like right off the bat. It would always be mentioned. And as I got older, I started to see that there was more to it that I was having trouble understanding. That there was something to being white in a primarily black culture, that meant that there was a neocolonialist structure that I was kind of unwittingly participating in. You go over there and you kind of teach people what to do. And it was like I didn't know what to do with that at all. I was completely shaken by it and confused, and it took many years to realize sort of what it meant to be a white person. Like, what does that mean? Because I kind of understood it in Uganda. Moving back to the States, or visiting the States, very confusing. I didn't know what that meant. A big part of it was socioeconomic status. That was a huge part of race. Because you can kind of assume if someone has come from the States, just because of the standard of living, because of the cost of the dollar, that they are in a more rich place in their life. I don't know. And so people would see my skin color, money.